Welcome.
Attention, please.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the No Comfort Zone podcast. It's time to get out of your comfort zone and live on purpose. Broadcasting to the world from Rockford, Illinois. This is your wake-up call.
Warning.
You are the solutions to all your problems. Stop thinking average. Become the hero version of yourself. Every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. It all matters. You've entered the No Comfort Zone. It's time for a reality check.
So Thursday and Friday, I was dealing with a lot of chaos and drama as I tried to avoid my life. And what was going on is I was spread too thin. I was trying to be omnipresent. So what I did was I overcommitted myself to be at multiple locations with multiple people and had responsibilities in each of those areas. Part of it was a time management scheduling issue, which I mentioned in one of the last podcasts that I have a major issue with that I'm working on. But the other part of it was I didn't want to let anybody down. And I'm here to tell you that that's a huge comfort zone for me, is that I want to be a people pleaser to a lot of people. And what you'll find out, the more people that you try to please, the more people are going to come up and want you to please them. So you're going to have to make a decision on what direction you're going to go and put your foot down, put a safe line in the sand, if you will, a boundary of what you're willing to do and who you're willing to do it for. And I guess the meaning or the moral of this podcast is sometimes it's okay to say no. Because ultimately that was my solution when I was working towards coming to a conclusion on how am I going to handle all this. I ultimately had to come down and say no to one area and let some other people step up into their space and make sure that they showed up and they could be a better version of themselves. And in the end, I think it all worked out okay because I was able to fulfill my duties and my obligations to my employer. I was able to be there for the managers that I'm around. I was able to get to the place I needed to be on time for the commitment with my wife. And I was able to still spend time with my son and pick him up. So in the end, it's Sunday night and I got to say, I actually survived. And it was all in my head too. Like I said, 2 podcasts ago, it's in that meeting in my head as far as what goes on and how bad it's going to be. I mean, I was a mess. I would say Friday about how am I going to do all this? And when Friday came, I got to the end of Friday and I picked up my son and I'm like, well, today wasn't so bad. I spent a few hours doing damage in my head instead of being positive and creative and living in the solution. I was worrying about how I'm going to make all this happen. It caused way too much stress than was actually necessary, but it all worked out. So when I woke up Saturday, I felt pretty good about the direction things were going to go. And have you ever been in that spot where you're just overcommit, you're overdrawn, whatever that might be for you? It's a horrible place to be. And imagine being in that place and day in and day out. Well, guess what? You're more than likely, if you don't have the vocabulary to say no or put a line in the sand, what will happen is that you're going to get too stressed out. You're going to age like a president. And in the end, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be living in your purpose. You're not going to find your passion because you're always in reaction mode. So Saturday comes around and I realize that, I'm halfway through it. I just have to get through today and meet my obligations and meet my deadlines and be everything to all the people that I said I was going to be. And guess what? I had to make some adjustments in those areas. But in the end, it did work out like I was saying. And it goes back to the word saying no, and also realizing that sometimes getting outside of your comfort zone when there is an opportunity for you to be a better version of yourself, sometimes you got to realize it's the other person you got to say no to. You can't always say yes to everybody because you're not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be a healthy or happy place for you to be. So as I reflect on the weekend and look what happened, it worked out pretty good. But moving forward now, here we are. It's the Thanksgiving holiday week before, and you got to think of all the things that you're just grateful for. Even if you're in a really bad spot, there's so many things to be grateful for. And I was in that spot. I was in a really bad spot for a very long time. And if you listen to this podcast long enough, you'll know what I was talking about. I'm not talking about being a little bit behind on your bills and stuff. I'm talking about not having the ability to speak, not having the ability to walk, being in debt up to your eyeballs with child support, with court costs, north of 60 grand having to pay back to the IRS, $160,000 medical bill hanging over your head, and still having a hard place of where you're going to live and basically what you're going to drive, and also trying to seek employment. That's a pretty bad spot. And I'm so No kidding. I'm not even kidding when I say this. I'm so grateful that those things have happened to me, because that was the opportunity for me to define on the person that I wanted to be moving forward. Was I going to be a quitter? Was I going to be a whiner, a complainer? Was I going to just basically be full of it? No, I actually did want to be a better version of myself. And I just kept looking all around me, and man, there's nothing positive. There's nothing going on well. And I realized, what is going well? You know what? Hey man, I'm sober. You know what? At one point, I was a really good employee. At one point, I was a pretty good manager. I was a great salesperson. At one point, I was. I just need to get back to those points. And how did I get there? Man, you got to follow that thing I said in the blueprint. You got to become aware of where you're currently at right now. Look at your debt. Look at your expenses. Look at your, what you consume when it comes to food, alcohol, all those things. Look how much time you're sleeping. Just take an inventory about where you're currently at. Be aware of who you really are today. Not who you were 10 years ago, but who you are today. Because in that moment, when I was trying to get back on my feet, literally, I was saying to myself, who's the version of myself that I want to be? I wasn't put on this planet to be average. Neither were you. There's so much greatness that lies inside you. You just have to believe that. You just have to know that at this time, you really are something special. You're a force to be reckoned with. And what will have to happen is you're going to have to work on it. And sometimes you're going to have to get through the tough spots, like it might be for you now, or maybe you just got out of one. Remember, you're either going into a major problem, you're just coming out of one, or you're currently in one. It's one of those three things. But you know what? When you get past it, you can look back and go, you know what? Life's good. Life is really good. Because I look back at, no, I'm not where I want to be at in my life. But that's okay. I'm still chasing that. And that's okay to chase. It's a human race for a reason. You also have to look at, you know what? If you have a really good attitude, here's the best one I just heard recently. Great attitude, gratitude. I just love that because, when you think about Thanksgiving time, you got to find something to be thankful for, whatever that is. I don't know, but I got asthma really bad. And sometimes when I get these asthma attacks, especially when the weather changes and the allergy season picks up, if you're a person that's got asthma like me, and you know how bad it can be, it's scary business when you get an asthma attack. It comes out of nowhere, and I'm trying to manage it. But man, I'm happy that, today I didn't have an asthma attack. That sounds so silly. And if you don't have asthma, it's not a big deal. But if you do have asthma like I do, you'll understand that it's a really tough thing to deal with. And it's something I have to deal with a couple of times a year, or guess what? Something I haven't dealt with, and it's got me. If I can be grateful that, hey man, I don't have an asthma attack today, I can take a breath of fresh air, I am, and I'm good to go. And I'm not kidding about that anymore. The older I get, the more I appreciate those things. I saw this meme today. It was an awesome meme. It's like I've come to the age in my life, and it's a picture of Jack Nicklaus smoking a cigar. I've come to the age in my life where I don't want to argue with anybody anymore. And if they want to say that 1 + 1 = 5, I'm going to say absolutely right, totally agree with you, and move on my business. It was a pretty cool meme. I saw that. And it really comes down to that. You know what? Let all the nonsense and all the chaos and drama you've been dealing with, let it go during this Thanksgiving time period in the United States. It's something we celebrate pretty big. So I challenge you to do that. Find something to be grateful for. Start saying no to some people. Start saying yes to yourself, because you are worthwhile. You are worthy, and good things will start coming your way. And in the end, you know what? Get out of your head. Get out of your head. I got to take my own advice. When you have problems that are starting to surface, when you're over obligated, overcommitted, and you're way behind deadline and stuff like that, just start writing stuff down and do the next best thing you can. Manage those 15 minutes that we were talking about. Manage those 15-minute blocks and see how much more you can conquer. See how much more you can actually get done. So anyway, just checking in with you on a Sunday night. This is Dan. I hope you're doing well. And I really hope you're having a great week. And I hope you're having a start to a great week, because it's Sunday night. This is where I start to write down my goals. I start to put my intentions down for what I'm going to do in the week to come. And guess what? I've taken another turn. I'm going to start getting back into my fitness thing, watching my diet, getting back into some major exercise. I'll fill you in how that goes. I don't want to commit yet in podcast land to my team out there, but I'm going to put some big goals in place, and I'm doing those right now. If you would, this week, make an effort to get out of your comfort zone and start living on purpose.
Say goodbye.
Want more of the No Comfort Zone? You can follow Dan on Instagram and Twitter at NoComfortZone1.
Bye.
Or on the web at thenocomfortzone.com.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the No Comfort Zone podcast.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.